before this episode begins, we are currently on the road to 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. It's the final push, we're pushing for that automatic promotion ourselves. And of course, we're battling our sister podcast over at League One Lowdown for the top spot to have the most subs as well. So we're in a little bit of a race. So if you do enjoy our content, then and you want to be the first to hear about everything we're doing, then please be sure to press that big red button. It costs you absolutely nothing. Right, let's get on to the episode.
It is a battle I really want to win. Down with the League One load. No. No, you're all right, lads. I promise. You're absolutely fine. But we all know that League Two is superior. I mean, it's quite closer for one, especially in the title race. Probably so. I mean, League One's similar with the relegation race. I guess there's not really much of a contest. Maybe other than Burton, but even then, there's still a fair bit to it. But well, yeah, Birmingham went up last night. Yeah, great. Yeah, spent money. We're doing their job. We're doing their job for them. Look, let's talk League Two, shall we? Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Yeah, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We hit 900. Was it this morning? Actually, I think we were recording this on the Wednesday night. So of course, thank you very much for that. Of course, we are in the final stretch. Let's see if we can hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the season. I think it's doable. The growth on the channel has been pretty mad. So any help towards that would be greatly appreciated. And of course, welcome to all the new subscribers. Thank you for joining us on this journey. We're joined by Luke for this one. How's things?
Yeah, I mean, not too bad. Kind of bittersweet, really, because a legend of the EFL has just retired, well, or about to retire at the end of the season. It's it's a sad one. Dean Lewington is MK Dons, and it's the end of an era.
Yeah, it is. Let's get on to that now. Actually, we'll start with that. We'll have a look at the game last night real quick, and we've got some, pretty much our final predictions from everyone here, and then we'll have a look at this weekend's game. So there's a lot to get through in this one. So obviously, we'll come to you first, Lou. Obviously, you have mentioned about the news about Dean Lewington hanging up the boots after so long at the end of the season. It looks like there's going to be is it Dean Lewington Day from what I saw on your final home game when you play Grimsby? Of course, it's against us, and you know exactly what's going to happen there. He's going to find a way to bag because it just feels inevitable because that's just Grimsby for you. But I mean, what? How do you describe? Like, I don't think legend does it justice, does it? Certainly, an MK Dons legend has to be an EFL legend as well. All that time at one club, I mean, is no mean feat, especially in this climate of football. I mean, what a career he's had.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, even without the Wimbledon FC appearances, he still has the most appearances for one club over John Jarrett, which is like ridiculous. Like you couldn't imagine a footballer doing that in the modern day. How often do we see players move? Every season almost, pretty much. So to stay at one club for as long as he has, and under MK Dons, it's 21 years, which is just that's just mental. I've seen a few people mentioning Coppinger at Doncaster, which I think was 17 years, but 21 years is just it's unreal, and I don't think we're going to see anything like it ever again. And that not even just us, just English football as a whole, we're not going to see anything like that ever again.
Yeah, I think in just this current day and age, obviously, playing football's a short career. It's a short career, and obviously you want to make the most out of it. So you can probably understand why, for lower league players, if there's a chance to move up the pyramid, they're gonna take it. Obviously, there's more money involved. Maybe a better way. There's so many different factors for it. I mean, Grimsby's record appearance maker was obviously just a little bit before my time. Was John McDermott made 750 odd appearances between the 90s to like the mid 2000s. I think it was 2007 he hung up his boots. I could be wrong there, but I hear his name get talked about a few times around these streets. But you see players nowadays. I mean, a lot of them are just there for a season, 2 max, and there is loyalty in football to a certain extent. I don't think there's too much of it anymore. as for a few different reasons. I think like I said, it's a short career. Players want to get out there. They want to try something new. They want different challenges. And I get that. There are right and wrong ways to go about it. But I mean, someone like Lewington, the ultimate professional, looks like he has been since the day he walked in. Which says obviously he's pretty much played all his career at MK Dons. He's been there pretty much since they were formed, of course, because had to get that within us. We're also going on how old I am with the football. How old I am compared to Wimbledon, compared to MK Dons. God.
Oh, you're in trouble in the comments now. It's not going to be me on my own.
But Wimbledon for the win anyway. Yeah, boo franchise, if that makes you feel better. What would you say is his favourite moment from what you see?
I mean, favourite moment for Lewington for me. It's probably going to be the Oval free kick, but way back from when we got promoted to the Championship, we had to win on the final day, and I think Colchester needed to beat Preston. We absolutely destroyed the Oval. Lewington scored a beautiful free kick. And then Colchester came in with a George Moncur goal of all people. And yeah, that's the first day that I was probably old enough to register just how much of a legend he was, because obviously we've had success with him in the past. In 2008, obviously winning League Two and Johnston's Paint, all the rest of it, and a lot of those are like my first memories as a football fan. But I think it was that season, pushing into the Championship, that they're really sort of sunk in properly for me. That's the moment that you sort of knew what a legend that man was. And I think we had some sort of match for him, like what testimonial type thing, like 10ish years ago. At this point, it feels like we're going to need another one a decade later, which is just insane. The guy needs a statue at a bare minimum. I think the list of things that our fans want to do for this man it's endless, and I don't think we can ever really thank him enough for his service. Really, he's like I said, he literally is MK Dons. He has more appearances in the EFL than AFC Wimbledon. Like, come on. This guy is
I
us.
have a
He
feeling the
he
AFC
is
Wimbledon
everything
fans are
about
going to
us.
enjoy this episode.
Oh yeah, the comments are going to be mental high. Yeah, just drop your hate comment down below. But no, regardless of what you think about us, I think you have to accept that this man is a legend, and he will go down in history as a legend, and he is a lovely bit of history for us as well. There you go, we have some.
This is going to be a fun one. And of course, the Eagle Eye viewers will see the Lewington free shirt in the background as well, next to the late George Bulldog. But look, yeah, terrific career. And we can only wish him all the best for whatever he goes on to decides to do next. We just wish him well. Let's have a quick look at the game that took place last night. Wimbledon, it finished, not Wimbledon, they weren't playing. I've got Wimbledon engraved into my head now. Chesterfield played Gillingham. They drew 1-1. Elliot Nevitt's goal in the 14th minute was cancelled out by 77th minute strike by Will Grigg. Obviously, Gillingham not playing for very much at all. That is their sixth straight draw. I mean, they're drawing a lot of their games. They're not losing, at least. Chesterfield, it's a draw. Probably a game they probably could have looked to have won. I know that obviously you can start. I think there's probably bits and pieces you can see Ainsworth ball really getting into Gillingham. Would probably like a win. I mean, they're not going anywhere. They're stuck in 17th. I think for Chesterfield, I mean, they're 6 points behind. Some interesting games coming up. I won't rule them out just yet, but it's getting a bit of a bigger ask, I think. Their next couple of games, I think, Fleetwood, AFC Wimbledon, and Bradford, their next three. They're three tricky games. Fleetwood will be level on points if they beat the Spy Rights. I think if they lose that, I think probably that could be that, to be honest. I still don't think they'll do it anyway. I think they'll just miss out. But, they've certainly given it a good go these last few weeks.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's kind of a case with Chesterfield now that if they make a single mistake, that's kind of it for the season. Which for me just makes this result a little bit frustrating, because you've got your game in hand there. It needed to be a win. You just give yourself that little bit more to do, those extra 2 points behind. And I mean, fair play because they did obviously come back from a goal down, but I don't know. It's one of those where I think they needed the 3 points a whole lot more than they would have needed one, which obviously sounds obvious, but it's just that extra margin, and like I say, that margin for error is so low now. It's a case of I think they'd have to win four off or potentially all five at this point. And I mean, it's going to be a good effort, and I wouldn't be surprised if they got very close. I think it's going to be a step too far, unfortunately. But in terms of Gillingham not having a win and they keep drawing, well, they play us on Saturday. So there you go. There's your win.
Oh, well, time to break that down. How many is scoring this week? Another 3? Yeah, you got to concede 3 at the minute.
My instinct was saying 5. It's Ainsworth. Remember, Ainsworth sides are falling our side since the dawn of time. So
yeah, good point. I remember the playoffs they played you in League One a few years back. Was it them? It was them, wasn't it? And
yeah, we
after the
played
season you had, and proper Ainsworth
we,
ball.
we played Wickham 5 times that season. We beat them 4 of those times, including the second playoff game. You can imagine which one was the one we lost. It was, of course, the first playoff game, and Josh McEachran actually got sent off in that game. Yeah, a bit of a shame because we looked certain to go up that season. But it is what it is.
But yeah, that's just showing my love for George again. Yeah, let's not dwell on that too much. Because there's only so much you can talk about that game with the greatest respect. So what we've done, there's obviously 5 games left of the season for most teams, other than Doncaster, who've got 6. We've sort of put together like our sort of final predictions of what we think will happen over the course of the next few weeks. We're mainly just looking at the relegation spots, who will make the playoffs, the automatic places, and who we think will go up as champions. So obviously, me and Luke have put our answers in, as well as Jake, Jack, and Kieran. Kieran was due to be joining us tonight, but he's saying that he's been on some mega call. So if he does pop up in this episode, don't be surprised. I thought I'd put out the warning now. I forgot to do it at the start, but there you go. Let's have a look. Probably one, I think if it was any other week, probably one we wouldn't dwell on. But obviously with the relegation places, I think it was obvious. It seemed pretty obvious which 2 that we all thought were going to go down. But obviously, those 2 play each other this weekend. Tranmere, I believe, have Accrington as well. Look, I think, it's pretty. I mean, for those that don't know, if you're listening to this on Spotify and Apple or whatever, we all think that Morecambe and Carlisle will be the ones to go down, and I think that's pretty fair. Yes, the 2 play each other. I think the loser of that game this weekend is down. Is pretty much down. You might as well just put the R next to the name already, even though it's still mathematically possible they can get out of it. I just think both have too much to do. Carlisle in particular, I think even if they win, it gives them a small glimmer of hope, but not much. But I mean, Morecambe's quality has been a problem all season, and I still think both go down, and that's clear from the others.
Well, yeah, it's just one of those things, the points deficit between 22nd and 23rd. We're looking at 6 points, which at the bottom end of the table is quite a lot because, the whole reason these teams are down there is because they don't pick up points very often. So to be 2 wins away at this stage with 5 games to go, you don't need to be a genius to figure out that that's not very favourable in terms of the odds for the sides already in the bottom 2. I do think it becomes more interesting if Morecambe do win against Carlisle and then Accrington lose to Tranmere, because then you're looking at a 3-point gap with 4 games to go, which you then have a bit of a battle between Morecambe and Accrington. But unless that happens, that's probably going to be it. And I mean, based on our predictions here of all of us saying that Morecambe and Carlisle will go down, I think we're all kind of expecting that to just not happen. And it'll probably just be some disappointing draw or something. But either way, they probably won't quite have enough. But then again, we are notoriously bad at predictions. So based on our early, on our ones at the beginning of the season, but I think we're pretty safe on this one, in fairness.
Tell you what, we're going to have fun looking back at the ones that we did at the start of the season, at the end of the season. I'm sure that'll be one that we do and figure out where we went wrong. Quite a lot of places.
Putting us top for
actually.
a start.
Yeah. I think from what I recall, I think a lot of us had Morecambe to be down. Obviously, Carlisle has come as a shock to most. But yeah, I pretty much agree with you. I think Tranmere, they've done very well last few weeks under Andy Crosby. They've got some great results recently, and they're on a bit of a roll. And I think they get out of it. I think they'll beat Accrington this weekend, if I'm going to be honest. Accrington, I'd be still pretty worried. They do have a bit of a cushion. They've still got to play Carlisle as well, do Accrington. So it could get interesting there. I think probably for there. Let's have a quick look at Morecambe's fixtures. Obviously, they play Carlisle this weekend, but then they play Bromley, Salford, Chesterfield, and Harrogate. Harrogate's fine all day. I think probably they could have preferred playing them a little bit earlier. There's some difficult games there. I think Carlisle have the better of the fixtures, although they do have to play Port Vale. Yeah, I think whoever loses are down. And yeah, it depends what happened in that other game. It could make things a little bit spicy, but ultimately, I just can't see past these two. I just can't. They've been pretty much down there all season, same as Tranmere, but they've clawed out of it. So is Accrington, but they've not spent a great deal, if any, time in the relegation zone. To be quite honest, I suspect that if the Accrington do survive, though, I can definitely see them struggling again. And whether there'll be those sort of teams to protect them, I don't know. But yeah, I don't think this has come as too big of a surprise, if we're going to be honest, because like I said, they have been down there. Both of them have been down there. Morecambe are 6 points adrift. Carlisle are 8 points adrift. Of course, that game is massive. Yeah, and I think the loser is down regardless this weekend. I think it's just that sort of game. And of course, the winner of that, it just gives them any glimmer of hope. But I still think there's a lot there. So I don't think there's really too much more to say, is there?
Yeah, not really. Like I said, I think the only way it gets interesting is if Morecambe win and Accrington lose, because I think both sides have been very similar all season. But then, as you say, there's always been a couple of sides that are a little bit weaker than Accrington. I mean, even Swindon were down there at one point, weren't they? We were discussing that for ages. It's just these other teams have pulled away, and these guys have just sort of been hovering around the bottom for so long. It's one of those. With Morecambe, I think they've got the fight, but just not the quality. And it's a case of if that's enough. And I think with Accrington, it's a similar story. So they've got the points advantage.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, Swindon are more than safe now from that as well, from their early season struggles. So they've got nothing to worry about there. So yeah, Carlisle and Morecambe for the drop. Unfortunately, it looks like, well, that's what we think. We'll be saying goodbye to them come the end of the season. Let's have a look at the playoffs. Of course, this is one that I'm interested in because Grimsby Town are in the race, and thankfully, or more scarily, if that's even a word, more terrifyingly, every one of us has predicted us to finish in the playoffs, which is quite interesting. Let's go through them. We'll save Luke's for last, actually, for some reason. So Kieran thinks that Port Vale, Notts County, Grimsby, and Colchester will make the playoffs. He reckons that Port Vale will win the playoffs, beating Grimsby in the final. I'd love a trip to Wembley. Go on, Kieran. Jake has gone for Walsall, not Salford. He wishes. Jake has gone for Walsall, Notts County, AFC Wimbledon, and Grimsby to make the playoffs. Notts County to beat Walsall in the final at Wembley. I've gone for Doncaster just to miss out on the top three. Notts County, AFC Wimbledon, and I've gone for Grimsby. I've gone for my team. Maybe there's a tad bit of bias in there, but I don't care. We've been in and around it all season. I feel quite confident about it. Doncaster to beat Notts County in the playoffs, and we'll get onto that in a little bit. Jack has gone for Walsall, Notts County, Grimsby, and Colchester to make the playoffs. Jack's gone for a Notts County to beat Colchester in the final at Wembley, and I've deliberately saved Luke's for last. The playoffs, he's gone for Walsall, Grimsby, Notts County, and Colchester. Colchester to win the playoffs, beating Notts County in the final, and no AFC Wimbledon. Would you, Adam and Eve it?
Oh, come on, I'm not the only one. Kieran and Jack also don't have them. I am not the only one.
Yeah, good point. To be fair, I just wanted to
I'll
point
be
out
the one that gets the
you.
comments there. But no, it's an interesting one. I was kind of alluding to it on the last episode we recorded, that I did feel like either Notts or AFC could kind of drop out just very last minute. They're in quite similar positions as things stand. Obviously, in my final prediction, I've leaned towards Notts getting the place, and then obviously doing quite well in the playoffs, actually making the final. But yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if it was the other way around and Notts don't make it and AFC make it in that sixth spot. But I mean, that would also change who I think makes the final, because I think Grimsby would be AFC, but that's probably me being biased again. But there you go. I think the big thing's just Colchester, because I'm the only one that's got Colchester to actually go and win the playoffs, and it is a bit of a gamble because obviously they've been on a run for so long. And we kind of saw it with Doncaster last season, where they kind of ran out of steam towards the end, and it wasn't quite enough. However, for me, I think the quality that is in that side and the fact that they are so difficult to beat, I think that puts them in quite a nice position as long as they make it in the first place, and I think they will. So I'd back them.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to digest from these picks. I was so close to not having AFC Wimbledon in there. I can see the reasons why some people have left, why some of you lot have left them out. Obviously, their form recently has been not great. I mean, the goals have, they do score goals, probably not to the extent of some others. They are built around a solid defence. I mean, Matty Stevens not exactly firing either, I think, at the moment. And, they've thrown a lot of points away late on, haven't they, in recent weeks? Walsall, they were winning that game. They drew 1-1. Against Barrow, they were 2-0 up and they blew that away quite late. Swindon, 2 late penalties in that game, as seen them lose that. They obviously need to pick up. I don't think there's any arguments about that. I do look at some of the other teams. Notts County was one I was a bit interested in the other day as well. I think they need to pick up a tad a little bit because they've been a little bit inconsistent of late, but I still think I back them to get over the line in that one. A few shouts for Colchester, and the more I think about it, the more I think it's a solid shout. I think if AFC Wimbledon don't make the playoffs, I think Colchester will. It's neither that, or if Grimsby don't make the playoffs, Colchester will. I just don't think Crewe will do it, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. And of course, there's a couple of different shouts for obviously that last automatic place. You notice some of them there. Kieran has gone for Port Vale to be in the playoffs. At present, I'm not too sure about that. I think they'll go automatically straight up. And there's arguments to be had with Doncaster as well. But I can certainly see why, Luke, Jake and Jack have put Walsall in the playoffs on recent form. I think they'll just get over the line, and we'll get into it in a minute. I think they'll just get over the line, probably because of the games that they've got left. I think they've got some favourable fixtures. Obviously, they do need to turn this form around. I think they're allowed to win in 9, which is far from promotion form. It's relegation form. But I wonder maybe if there's a different level that, if there's any sort of motivation there. I mean, if you can't be motivated for these next 5 games, then you don't deserve to go up, to be quite honest. But something tells me, I just think Walsall will just do enough. But obviously, if you're Doncaster, they have that game in hand as well. But they are also looking at some tricky fixtures. They've got Wimbledon next. They're still going to play Colchester. Still got to play Bradford. Still got to play Notts. And do you know what? If I said this the other week, if Doncaster get into the top 3, they deserve it. They truly deserve it because there's some tricky fixtures there. I think that's pretty much most to say. Is there any more you want to add? I think that's just for me anyway. I didn't even really mention my team, did I? Grimsby. I think we've got players back. I trust this team. I trust this team to go all the way. We've got some favourable fixtures. I mean, we've still got to play Port Vale in there. The final day game against Wimbledon could be tasty. We've got some players back now. It's great to see Charles Burnham on the bench. I think we're only really missing Justin Abiku now. And, I think he's a game changer if he comes back. there's a part of I just think the character of this team and how well they've done this season, they've been in and out. I think we'll just have enough to get over the line, which pleases me greatly. Is there anything you want to add on sort of that race at all?
Well, yeah. I mean, with Grimsby, I think the character you guys have got, and the fact that you've grown over the course of the season as well. Because obviously, early season we're going on about all these struggles at home, all the rest of it. I feel like you've developed to be a bit more consistent now. And well, looking at it now, I've actually got you guys higher than anyone else has. So I have a feeling you guys are going to kick on and actually finish the season quite strongly. I mean, you've got guaranteed 3 points against us, but 4 other games to have a bit of a fight in. But no, I think you guys should make it. And like I said, I was saying on the previous pod, I think there's just another twist in the tail to this whole league. It's been so chaotic that I can just see something weird happening. And again, that's partially why I've got Walsall dropping out the top three, because obviously they've been up there for so long, and it would just be the most typical League Two this season thing to happen. That for them to suddenly drop out right at the very end. I think the redeeming factor is the fact that I think Ellis Harrison is supposedly back, and having that striker there for the last few should really help them going forward. So maybe they will kick on and get it. But I think with them, it's just the fact that they haven't won in so long, and that first win is always the hardest to get. And I mean, I think we saw an improved performance in the last game against Port Vale, but it didn't translate to the result. So I'm also thinking about the mental side of things. Is that going to get to them now? Because there's a case if they really have to kick on, otherwise they are at threat of falling out of the top four, and that's kind of at the top three even, and that's kind of where I'm at with Walsall at the minute.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Let's have a look at the teams that will finish. We think we'll finish in the automatic places. We'll touch on Walsall a little bit more in a minute. Luke's gone for Bradford and Doncaster to finish second and third. Kieran's gone for Doncaster, Walsall. Jake, Bradford, Doncaster. I've gone for Port Vale, Walsall. Jack has gone for Port Vale, Bradford. I mean, just a quick mention on Walsall again. I know you're looking at their last five. I mean, Barrow have caused problems for teams in and around that race. You are coming up against Harrogate, Newport, and Accrington before that. They go to Crewe on the final day, which is not an easy game, that one. But those next three, I think, are probably be looking at after Barrow. I just feel like something's got to give for Walsall. That's the impression I get with that, and that's why I just think they'll do it just about. I mean, there's a load of different, a little bit different. I mean, Bradford. I fully expect Bradford to finish in the top three. I don't think that's. I just think they've just been that good over these last couple of months. They've had a little bit of a dip, little bit recently, but I think me and Kieran had this good conversation the other day. It was a good TikTok from which was posted. It's like the fans they are the definition of the 12th man, and I know they've got some difficult games coming up. They've still got to play Swindon, Notts County, Chesterfield, Doncaster, and Fleetwood, but I reckon that could be part of the reason that they just get the edge. I think you probably look at it. I think fans. It's easy to say that, but I truly believe it with Bradford, and I think their squad's more than capable of doing something. Doncaster, again, like I said, I think if they get through these fixtures, they've got the advantage of the game in hand as well. And of course, if they do win that game in hand, they will go above Walsall. But they've got some difficult fixtures as well. They've still got to play Wimbledon, which is their next game, Salford, Tranmere, Colchester. They've still got to play Bradford and Notts. That's their last two, which could make for an interesting one. Port Vale have been flying recently, and I don't really have many complaints with them. I think they'll be pretty much there for at least a top three finish if they carry on. And seeing some of their games, I think their last five are quite favourable on the whole. Certainly games in which they certainly like to think they'll pick up points. I guess, like I said, I guess the big one is Walsall. I think could very easily drop out, but I think the beauty with it this year, I'm very confident it will go down right to the wire, and that is what makes things so fun, so scary as well if you support those teams. But that's just where we are. That's just how tight it is this year. You can't afford to make a mistake at this stage now. You just can't. Because it'll be massively costly with where other teams are. I don't know what you think.
Well, yeah, I think you've touched on it there perfectly. It all comes down to character and the strength in terms of mentality of these sides now, because it's a proper brawl this season. It's not a case of, oh, you can just run away with it, because, well, I mean, Walsall did for a while, and then they've fallen off a cliff, and suddenly they're having to try and fight their way to the finish. And I think with Bradford, I think they're pretty much guaranteed top three. I mean, obviously that's quite bold to say that when it's all so close in the points, but I think in terms of character, the setbacks they've had, they've reacted so well to those, and then they've obviously got the fan support on top of that. I think the fans can feel that the promotion is coming as well when they're sort of willing it to happen. And after however many seasons of underperformance, I think is probably fair to say. And this does feel like the season they'll do it. Whether it'll be in a league winning capacity or automatic promotion capacity, I don't know. Uh, but for me, top three for them is pretty much guaranteed the way they're set up at the minute. Doncaster's a bit of it's a trickier one because, as you say, the fixtures are very, very tough. But then the game in hand does also play as a bit of a factor. Obviously, it's not points on the board, but at the same time, a team towards the top end, you'd back them to get at least something from it, close that gap. And again, I know they've got struggles with defensive injuries, all the rest of it, but they do have a lot of fight in that side as well. Whereas with Walsall, that's what's making me put them as low as fourth. Is just I'm not seeing the level of fight that I'm seeing from those other three, and obviously Port Vale as well. And well, if you've ever needed a show of Port Vale's strength of character, they've just gone and beaten two of their automatic promotion rivals. What more do you need to say? For me, it's a shootout for the title between Port Vale and Bradford.
Yeah, and let's have a look at what we think for the automatic promotion. Well, not automatic promotion, first place even. I've gone for Bradford, and I said to you before we started recording, because I think we did these. Was it the other day, like on Monday?
Yeah, a
I
few
think.
days ago, something like that.
The more I'm thinking about it, the more I actually think Port Vale will pip them. But it shouldn't be staying on Bradford as well. But for reasons like Kieran has also gone for Bradford there. I don't think they're two very good sides, and I think you probably do see recently as well. You're looking at Port Vale; they have beaten Bradford, and they've just beaten Walsall as well. A lot of teams have beaten Walsall recently, mind, but it could be any of those two. It could be any of those two. It depends who holds their bottle. Luke and Jake have also gone for Port Vale. I find it interesting that Jack's gone for Doncaster. That is, I wouldn't say he's massively bold. I do think that if they play their cards right and they do I think over them and Walsall, I do think they have the advantage, but it's all about, obviously they do have that game in hand, but obviously points on the board, etc., etc. But for the title, I guess there's not much in it. I guess it's very much on if they do win that game in hand. Like I said, that I think they've all got difficult fixtures to some extent. I think out of those three, I think Port Vale's are better in terms of the team they've got to play. I do actually thinking about it. I was looking at it at the time. I'm thinking, I'm not particularly sure. But actually, the more you think about it now, it's not completely out of the question. First place. Do I think they'll do it? Probably not quite. If I'm going to be honest, I think those two are just a bit better. Certainly top three worthy. I'll definitely say that. I don't know. I don't know what you think.
Well, with Doncaster, I think it's going to come down to the home form. I've been saying it pretty much all season. I don't think their home form is as good as it should be. And the three games they've got left at home, AFC, Colchester, Bradford. Those are the big ones. If you drop points in those, that's when you're going to start to have a bit of a problem. And when they've already got the defensive injuries as well. Like I said, I do think there's a lot of fight in the side, which is why I still back them to at least get top three. But I think it might be a case of it's too much of a mountain to climb to get all the way up to top spot. I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't be overly surprised if it did happen. But for me, I don't think they've quite got enough in them. Maybe just not quite. You can see why they're up there as a promotion contender, but maybe top spot's just a little bit too far for me.
Maybe, but let's just say let's just say they played tonight and they won tonight. They'd be on 73 points. They'd be joint top. So there's that side to it. But I get where you're coming from there.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's an
it
interesting
is
one.
tricky. It is it's so tricky to call, especially when two of the sides up there have really difficult games, and then all the playoff sides are obviously it's when the playoffs are as close as they are, they've all got difficult games. It's so hard. It can all change within one game week, and as you're alluding to, it probably will come down to the final week, which is what's making it so difficult for us to
I think it's
figure
too
out
tight
what's
for
going to
it. I
happen.
think it's just too tight for it to not come down to the final day in terms of the auto spots, or at least certainly one of them, and in terms of the playoffs as well. I just think it's just so tight knit. It's just a case of whoever holds their bottle right until the end.
Yeah, exactly. It all comes back to character and mentality, and that's why, like I said that before, that's why I've backed the teams I have. And maybe I'll be wrong, but it's going to be very, very close either way. And well, given that my team's not involved, I'm quite enjoying it as a neutral. So it makes an
Great
interesting
for the
makes it
team not
interesting at
involved.
least.
So much for a far cry than what it was at the start of the season. Oh yeah, we're going to go into this season. We're going to absolutely smash it. Mike Williamson, ball, etc. Look at all these signings. Look at the money we've spent. Look at the team we've got.
Oh, well, we'll
Gone
just
well,
have
isn't it?
that next season. Well, I'm
Yeah,
sure we'll
just hit an
try and
iceberg.
go for
We're
wraps in
reset.
next season.
We're resetting HMS till next season. There's a short delay.
That's the frustration with us, isn't it?
Long delay.
Because what we've seen is this league is there, well, has been there for the taking, and Walsall did have it for a while, and they bottled it a bit. But this season really was there for someone to come and be like, right, we're just going to take the league by storm. You lot battle out amongst yourselves whilst we take top spot. It just hasn't really happened for us, obviously, because we're down in 19th, something like that.
Yes, 19th.
Yeah, there you go.
10 points off relegation. Just saying.
Yeah, not mathematically safe yet. Don't know how that's happened.
Yeah, I mean, some season for you, lot. I mean,
Oh,
you pretty much
yeah.
swap places. I mean, look, we're in 7th. Again, I keep saying it. Maybe I'm getting a bit excited. I am. We're 5 games to go, and we're in with a serious shout of a playoff spot, which is
I think you have a
mental.
right to be excited.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about expectations, you were telling us at the start of the season how you guys were going to be right near bottom half, all the rest of it, but actually the project that Artel's built it looks sustainable, and you're growing game by game.
Yeah,
And even if you don't get promoted, it still looks good and sets you up nicely for next season.
Yeah, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. Yeah, I said to you in the chat yesterday. I think there's one thing that I've taken away from the season is just to have a little bit more belief. Because we've come into seasons. We've been in the EFL for for the last 10 years. I mean, we had a season where we dropped out, but we haven't really done anything. We've just been there to make up the numbers. It's just nice that we've actually looking like we actually mean business, and that's what pleases me. And some of the football we've played this season has been superb. I mean, there's been it's not always been like the case, but you're always going to get that. It was very much more of a transitional season, but it's exceeded the heist of my expectations. So I can only be proud of whatever happens. But saying that now, I would be a tad disappointed if we missed out, but again, shouldn't be seen as failure. And I've said that quite a few times because it puts us into good stead for next season, and I'm really excited for what we could do there if we don't do it. But there's still time. There's still a bit to go. But I'm just thrilling in it. Let's say heading into it. I don't even think that was the right word, but I couldn't think of it at the top of my head. Let's have a look through at the games this weekend because, of course, the games keep coming. And there's some pretty big games in there. I'll be watching this one behind the pillow as Cheltenham go to Crewe. Cheltenham couldn't be any more on the beach if they tried. They've already packed up their bucket and spade. They've got their sun towels in there, and they've got their flights tickets already booked. So they've got to go to Crewe. I'm hoping they pick up a result. I don't think they will. They've lost the last 4. They've been quite poor recently. I just think Crewe will do it. Unfortunately, I don't know what I'm hoping from a Grimsby. Obviously, from a Grimsby perspective, I'd want a Cheltenham win. Of course, we've still got to do our jobs, either for Crewe, Colchester, whatever. We've still got to do our jobs. But you've also you quite like it if other teams slip up as well. That's where we're at now this season. I just think Crewe will do it though. I just think Cheltenham are done for. I think this season they've had enough.
Well, yeah, I mean, with Crewe, it is quite literally now or never. They are the hunters in this situation. They've got to make up the ground, and they've only won 1 in 7. If they lose again or draw or just anything other than that 3 points, I think that's going to be their season pretty much done and dusted because they've still got to play Colchester and they've
Say
still got to play Walsall.
They go to Colchester next week. That could be massive for. It's massive for both, to be honest, and I'm dreading that one from my perspective. But yeah, some big games coming up. I mean, I've got MK, so that's 3 points.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's their guaranteed 3. But it's the fact that I think Cheltenham is the only other one there where I'm looking at that and thinking that has to be the guaranteed 3, because there are so many games where you're up against these other teams that are still playing for things, and there's that slight edge to it that some of these other games won't have. This Cheltenham game has to be the 3 points, and I think for the sake of their season, I'm going to back them to get to get a win there. Because if they don't, that's their season done in my eyes.
Yeah, very much could be. Yeah, I think it's a game they have to win, really. Cheltenham are just done for. Doncaster play host to AFC Wimbledon. Now, of course, these are two teams that are going for it. I mean, I don't think you can rule out AFC Wimbledon from the automatic spots yet. Of course, recent form suggests that I don't think that they won't. They obviously need something. They did win their last game against Harrogate. They've just about found a way to do that. Obviously, Doncaster are at home, and you suggested obviously their home form, etc. They are unbeaten in 5. They've drawn 3 of them now. I just feel like this will be a draw. I get the sense that this could be draw. It just screams that sort of game for me. That's just what I feel.
That was exactly what I was about to say. This just feels
Draw.
like a draw to me. Doncaster have, as you say, they've drawn 3 of their last 5. AFC have drawn 2 of their last 5. Both are playing for something. Neither of them are going to want to lose. Both of them really need the 3 points, but at the very least, you want at least something. You don't want to go away with nothing, because every point you lose now, that just makes it so much harder for you when you've only got a handful of games left. Yeah, I think it's going to be a case of the two teams even each other out. It's going to be very edgy, and it's going to be a draw.
Yeah.
Also, I'm pretty sure we missed the Friday game as well. Not.
Did we? Oh, they Friday,
Yes.
are they? Oh, so they are. Yeah, they're playing Salford. Yeah, I think there's a lot to do for Salford now. I think obviously them draw it. Like Gillingham have had a bit to say these last couple of games with teams that have potential ambitions. Yeah, I still think Walsall. I'm confusing Walsall and Salford quite a lot tonight. As much as I'm confusing AFC Wimbledon and MK Dons. Obviously, one's a little bit more acceptable than the other. Probably not, actually. No, that's horrible. That's a horrible thing to say. I
was going to say, you really want to stand by that?
No, I don't. No, I don't think Walsall want to be compared to Salford. No offense. It's a tricky game for Notts, but I back him.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. Actually, looking at Salford's form from the last 5, they are unbeaten in 4, and I don't know, they've still got that outside chance. I think it's very unlikely they get anywhere near playoffs, if I'm being brutally honest. But as things stand, they do actually have something to play for, just about. And Notts have been a little bit inconsistent as well. I do think it'll be a close game. I probably still would back Notts to win it. I think again, it's just this is crunch time now, isn't it? It's a case of if you don't win, you are kind of in trouble a little bit. You don't want to be that team that suddenly has to fight for something on the final day. And then, I mean, to be fair, again, I was saying about Notts or AFC, one of them could potentially drop out. I think this is one of those games. If Notts don't win, that they're sort of leaning towards that sort of area where they might not make playoffs. And I think this is a crucial one to win. I think they'll make hard work of it, but I think they'll win.
Yeah, it's a dangerous game actually. I agree with you there. It's a game which yeah, I think the pressure's on more on Notts, if anything, more than Salford. The pressure's on that, and it's on
Mm.
them. Bradford go to Swindon. We know that Swindon have been fun, I think is probably the word, since Holloway's come, especially last few months. You see some of the results of their games, and most of the time they've been quite entertaining affairs. They concede lots, they score lots. Obviously, Bradford will want to go there and just get the job done. I think it'll be more difficult than maybe they'd have planned. I know they went to, was it Accrington the other week, and they played out a goalless draw there. It's a difficult game. I think, because this rejuvenated Swindon side, they've been a good team. They've only lost once of their last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games. So it's they're certainly playing with a lot of freedom, in these last few games, albeit they've got nothing else to play for. They've done their job. They're in this division next season. Yeah, it's going to be a tough game for Bradford. But these are sorts of games in which if you want to get promoted, you've got to go and win it. It's just one of those.
Well, absolutely, and I'm just scrolling through Swindon's previous games here, and I'm struggling to find any Swindon defeats at home, which is interesting. Aside from a cup game, so it is going to be a tricky one actually. And their last couple of games have been good. They've picked up a couple of decent results, obviously beating AFC and then absolutely destroying Fleetwood. Yeah, I don't know. I think Swindon could upset Bradford a little bit here. Maybe not quite to the full extent, but perhaps this could be a draw.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same. Yeah, we'll go for it. So Tranmere go to Accrington. Obviously, one of the big games down at the bottom of the table. A defeat for any of these sides could be costly, although I think especially for Accrington. I mean, Tranmere have done very well these last few weeks under Andy Crosby, and he deserves a lot of credit for the run they've been on. At this current time, I can't see anything else but Tranmere win. I think they've been that good, and I think they'll go into that game, know what the tasks that need to be done, because if they win that, they're safe. I think they're safe.
Well, yeah, I think the only thing that makes this a bit trickier is it's the fact that both teams still have something to play for. Because
Maybe,
if you
but
do lose and Morecambe win, then it gets a little bit edgy.
at the same time, they've just put 4 past Chesterfield. If that doesn't give you confidence, and I don't know what will, and especially going on with their recent form as well, I
Oh
just don't,
yeah,
see how they could be on a lull from it.
I don't doubt that Tranmere are going to be, are going to put up a good performance. I just wonder if Accrington are going to suddenly show up. I mean, they've been destroyed in their last couple of games. 4 goals conceded in both of the last two. If there was ever a game they needed to win, just to, secure their survival, secure their EFL status, that's probably the one to do it in. They'll be up for it. So it's probably closer than we'd anticipate. But I would generally agree that Tranmere should have a little bit too much and should be a little bit too strong. So I am going to back Tranmere to win, but I think it's going to be very, very close.
Yeah, and of course the two played each other recently as well. Accrington got the better hand, and that was a night in which Nigel Atkins resigned as well. So obviously a little bit different this time than it was about a month or so ago now. That was. Walsall head to Barrow. I mean, Walsall need a win, don't they? And of course they're up against a team in which, we've mentioned it. They're on decent form in the league and have had a fair bit to say in this promotion battle. As of late, it is a difficult place to go. Barrow, very much out of the way, long way to travel as well. I'm looking more, I think I've said this, I'm looking for more of the 3 games after that for Walsall, but if they can pick up a result here, then great. I get the impression that this might play out as a draw, if I'm going to be honest. Yeah, Barrow have been doing all right at the minute under Andy Wing.
Well, absolutely. I mean, they've only lost one game recently, and that was a close game against Chesterfield. So, Barrow are in reasonable form. Walsall, meanwhile, haven't won away since the 22nd of February, and that was Morecambe. So it doesn't breed confidence for me. I don't think Walsall are going to quite have enough. I think this is going to be one of their slip-up games, and especially after being disheartened by the Port Vale game. I think this will be quite a flat performance. I think where we start to see maybe more of a Walsall resurgence will be after that game. So for me, I'm actually going to back Barrow.
That's the thing. If they win that game, I think they're going into those next 3 games: Harrogate, Newport, Accrington. There's 3 teams that are right down there struggling. Newport season's done. Harrogate, they've still probably one more win, does it for them? Accrington have still got it to do yet, but they're not a million miles away. There's opportunities there. There's massive opportunities. But if they can get something at Barrow as well, the fact we're even saying that, so how far they've fallen. It's one that we do need to look into quite a fair bit. We have looked into it quite a bit, but yeah, difficult game for them. Chesterfield play Fleetwood. I think this is I think if Chesterfield, I think we did touch on it. I think this is a game I think Chesterfield have to win. Because if Fleetwood do beat them, they'll go level on points with them. It's not out of the question yet for the Spirites, but they've got to win. I think they've got to win and hope that maybe a little bit of fortune goes their way with the other results. I think they will. I think they will win.
Yeah, I'd back them. I think that they're starting to get some of their injured players back, which is always a boost. And yes, they drop points to Gillingham, but I think they're a harder team to beat now. They've got Ainsworth there. You know what Ainsworth sides are like. The whole anti-football set up very hard to beat. I'm going to keep making the anti-football comments and get used to it. But no, I think Chesterfield should have enough here. Fleetwood for me is still consistently inconsistent. Obviously they put 4 goals past us, but then they went and conceded 4 the other day. So kind of enough said on them. I think Chesterfield should win this.
You've set that up brilliantly. Ainsworth's anti-football now comes into the next game as MK Dons make the trip to Priestfield. Bit the draw specialist Gillingham have been recently. Just the 6 straight draws for them, albeit Gareth Ainsworth, I forgot his name from there. Gareth Ainsworth hasn't been there for all of them. Obviously, MK Dons, they've been miserable, haven't they? You did say there were 1 or 2 whispers of a new manager, perhaps not far away. So we'll have to see on that. Ainsworth will get his first win, I think.
Oh yeah, this is why I'm struggling to predict it. The thing is, if a new manager does not come in for this game, we're losing this about 5-0, 100%. The only thing is if the manager does come in, then it starts to get a little bit trickier to call. And there's still a reasonable chance we'd lose the game, but it would be a tougher game at least where we don't concede 3+ goals, like we seem to be doing every game at the minute. I think if the manager does come in, maybe we'd add to that whole sort of drawing thing that Gillingham have going on. But then also thinking all the way back to December, they're the team that put us on a bad run to begin with. They were the team that beat us when we were on a 6-game winning streak. So we do owe them one. I'm going to assume the manager comes in, and I'm going to say draw. But all I'm saying is if the manager doesn't come in, we're losing 5-0. That's it.
Perfect. Right, Harrogate, they host Grimsby. I'm going to this game. We have beaten Harrogate in the season, but we don't have the best of records against Harrogate. We've certainly not beaten them at their place since I can remember. They've been a little bit of a bogey team for us in these last few years, other than, of course, this season. As I said, we have beaten them. They've been quite solid at home, Harrogate. That's what I've been quite wary about. I think I've read that they've unbeaten in like the last 8 home games. Of course, we have one of the better away records in the league. I think we picked up the most wins away. I think a defeat would be quite damaging, to be honest. Ultimately, I think if we want this, I think this is a game we have to go out and try and win. I don't doubt that we will. I'm sure we'll do that. It's a game in which I could just see us getting unstuck. I think these next couple of games, we play Swindon next week as well. Obviously, that'll be an interesting one for the preview one next week for the Holloway slander. But I'll save that. Those are games in which we could come unstuck. I think it'll be a draw, if I'm going to be honest. I think it'll be a draw. But I think if any of them was to win, probably us. it's a difficult one to call because you've seen this recent record against Harrogate, not great. You do look at the season, of course, they've been down there for a reason. We've been up there. It's a difficult one to call. But yeah, like I said, I think if it was swaying anywhere, probably us. But we have to be on our guard because if we don't, we'll get punished for it. That's just the sort of team Harrogate are.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, the last time Harrogate lost at home was New Year's Day, 2-0 to Salford. So that's, as you say, that's a reasonable run of games at home. They are tough to beat, and I mean, if you set up for a point every game and you're doing it at home as well, it's a little bit easier at home, personally. But at the same time, Grimsby are very strong away. They're one of the teams that, if you're on the road, you feel like there's a reasonable chance they can come away with something. I think logic would probably lean towards a draw, but given that we are at the time of season we're at, I'm going to back you guys to actually go and win that, especially because I have you guys to finish fifth. So I kind of need you to win that one, so I'm right. So that'd be
Yeah, I
quite
think we're
handy if
looking
you
at
could.
it. Yeah, we're looking at it at that point. Those are the sort of games I think we have to win, to be quite honest. Morecambe host Carlisle. We've said at the start pretty much how big this game is for both. I think whoever loses this, I think are down. Whoever wins this, there's a little bit of glimmer of hope. I still stand by the fact that I think that whoever does win this, there's still quite a lot to do. But it all depends. I think the best they can hope for now is probably what Accrington do. I think Tranmere will do enough, and I think that's taking their game out their question, out of the question even. It's probably a game which not many of them want to make a mistake. Morecambe have picked up a few results at home of late. There's maybe that could sway that. They have beaten Carlisle this season as well. But if at the same time that that Carlisle has shown a little bit of character recently than what they have done all season. Is it too late? Maybe. I think they've timed this quite wrong. It looks like they're starting to get a little bit of fight going. I don't know. I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna think about it first.
Well, the thing is, both sides have shown signs of life, but that's only been at home. Carlisle have lost their last three away. Morecambe are unbeaten in 4 at home. 3 of those were wins. I really want Carlisle to win that game because that makes us very close to being mathematically safe. But I think at home, although there will be this sort of grudge kind of element of we need to survive, we're fighting for our lives, this is the game you have to win. I still think at home Morecambe might just be strong enough to win that game.
They have won their last 2 at home. I'm swaying towards Morecambe, just for quite a few reasons. And of course, it'll be one that's very damaging for Carlisle if they do lose, because they're all but done if they do. They're National League ban if they lose. Let's just call a spade a spade. Tight though. I don't think there'll be much in it. Newport hosts Colchester. Please Newport, I beg, Kieran. No. You probably think that Newport have had a knack before of just pulling out a result at home against decent opposition. I can't see it. No, I can't see it. I say that I can't see it. I think Colchester will do it.
I mean, to be fair, Colchester have dropped points in their last couple of away games, and get the games that Newport have picked up points in have typically been the home games recently. So it will be tight. I think this could well just be a typically Cowley-esque 1-0 Colchester win.
I just think this Newport side is soft compared to other years. That's what I was thinking about there. I don't like this Newport side at all. And I mean, you've heard Kieran's views on Nelson Jardim and obviously the squad as well. They've been. I mean, they've had that run about February at the start of February, which is I think it's probably kept them up actually, because I've been far from impressed from them in these last few weeks and last few months. To be fair, I knew this was obviously going to be a transitional season, but it's it's just not been great at all on viewing. And of course, Port Vale play host to Bromley. Now this is still can't say it. This could be a difficult game for Port Vale. Bromley will be in League Two next season. I think any shouts of playoffs, I think, are out of the question now. But we've said quite a few times that they should be proud of what they've done this season. Port Vale on a roll. It's as simple as that. And it's another game in which they'll probably back themselves for. It's one I don't think there'll be much in it, and I won't. And you know what? I won't be surprised if Bromley come away with something. I think it's one of those games. But Port Vale at home, they know what they need to do. They know where they are. I can't see beyond them.
Well, yeah, I mean, it could be maybe closer than we expect, just because Port Vale put a lot of energy into beating Walsall and beating Bradford. Wouldn't be surprised if they suddenly came off it a little bit against Bromley, and Bromley do still have a reasonable amount of quality in their side, but equally they're not that great away recently. Although to be fair, they had a couple of decent away wins against us and AFC, but that was back early March, end of Feb sort of time. I think I'd still lean towards Port Vale. I think it might be one of those games where they don't necessarily play great, but they do manage to get the result because that's what champions do, and I've backed them to be champions. So
they just get the
I
job
think they'll just
done.
about get it.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly that.
Like the game against Morecambe, recently, where they found a way to win, and that's what you just need to do at this stage.
Yeah, exactly that. That's the mentality of and the strength of champions, and if that's what they're fighting for, this is the sort of game they'll need to win, and I think they'll just about do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Of course, a couple of difficult challenges in that time. In this game, even of course, with the least top goal scorer, Michael Cheek, of course, always a threat. But yeah, I think they've got enough. I think they've got enough about them to get 3 points here, and that's where we'll wrap up for this one. A bit of a bumper episode. We've got through a lot in this one. So if you did enjoy it, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new around here. Like I said, we are on the hunt to, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. So any help towards that would be greatly appreciated. Share it with your friends, share it with your family. Make them a YouTube account if you want, and then do it behind their back. I don't care. Just get it done. We'll be back. Well, we'll be back on probably Monday, obviously for the review podcast. But all I'm going to say, keep an eye out because there is something coming in the next few days. We have all I'll say is we have another interview coming up in which Luke will be doing. He'll be with Kieran for that. Not going to give too much away at the minute. I'm really excited to having a listen of this when it does come out. Listen at the same time as you lot. So keep an eye out. We'll be releasing that over the next few days. We'll be doing the interview tomorrow. Today's Wednesday night, so we're doing that tomorrow. Hopefully, maybe to get out probably Friday or whenever. It'll probably be out before the obviously next episode on Monday. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for watching, listening. As always, we'll be back for the next episode very soon. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Have a great day. Let us know in the comments what you thought. And we'll see you soon.